Hi, everyone, and welcome to Lithuania Goes AI, Agro-tech. Lithuania Goes AI is a series of virtual events about the Lithuanian AI ecosystem. I can hear myself. And the current innovations in AI. Today, we have the fourth event out of 5 already, and the topic is, as I mentioned, Agro-tech. Growing more with less, using natural resources sparingly, reaching carbon neutrality, these are just a few challenges facing agriculture. But let's be more specific. AI in agrotech. How can this technology improve the industry? How drones, machine learning, and satellites make food production more productive? How are the crops used in fuels and fibers being made using AI? How is it being used in the processes of automation, remote monitoring, control of pests and diseases? And the most important question of it all, what and how much of that is being done right here in Lithuania? So today we are going to find out, today we are going to learn more about it from the insider's perspective. And Mita, together with Lithuania Goes AI, have invited businesses and startups from all over the world to join. And so hopefully you are joining, you are enjoying, and you are learning. Simply, the goal of this event is just to gather and show what we got and get those who are interested acquainted with the ecosystem and the vibe of it. My name is Lukas Karaitis. For you who don't know me, I'm a science and technology communicator. I work on TV and radio shows about technology and science. I moderate events like this, and I'm super curious to learn about agro-technical modern solutions. For me, from all 5 events, this topic, Agrotech, is the most surprising, is the one I know the least about. So that means I'm just more interested in knowing more. As always, to begin with, I would like to hear from you. We have a chat that we usually use quite actively. I already see Agne have joined us in the chat. So everyone, just let me know, where are you from? Just write in the chat, where are you from? What company maybe you represent, or university or an institution, or maybe you're joining from somewhere else than Lithuania. So let us know in the chat. Let's be active there. It's nice to hear questions from you. And as always, after every presentation, you can ask anything you like. And today we are going to have 3 presentations and a discussion. I'm betting the presentations are going to be really interesting. Agriculture. I'm wondering if you who are joining this event know a lot in this topic, or you are just curious as I am, and maybe want to learn more and don't know much about it. So let me know in the chat. Let's get trapped there. Okay, so the discussion is at the end, and now we are going to start with presentations. And the first of all is AI in agri-food sector. Is it a future, or the future is now? And now we are going to hear from Kristina Šermukšnytė Alešiūnienė. She's a director at Agri-Food Lithuania DAH, Digital Innovation Hub, that brings together major research, businesses, and public stakeholders in Lithuania for a common pursuit of digital transformations in the agriculture, food, and associated sectors. So I'm saying hi, Kristina. Hi, can you hear me?
Hello. Yes. Hello, everyone.
Hi.
So thank you so much for such a nice introduction of myself. So today's mission for this event, what I'm doing, I'll try very briefly to present our landscape of what we are doing in agri-food sector with the SMEs, startups, working with the artificial intelligence. So let's start. And as I was correctly presented, I'm the managing director of the Agri-Food Lithuania Digital Innovation Hub. So basically what it is and what we do, our organization is uniting different stakeholders from the agri-food sector, and not only from the agri-food sector. Also, we work with the cross-sectorial collaboration very closely too. As you're gonna hear later on, it is also always useful to bring the cross-sectorial knowledge and apply it to the fields which was not tested before. So basically, our organization is dedicated for the digitalization of the agri-food sector. And what are the main technologies? What are the main challenges for the digitalization? So artificial intelligence is one of the hot topics in the digitalization of the agri-food sector. How our ecosystem looks like. Basically, almost all digital innovation hubs in European Union operate in the similar schemes, but the way we work in Lithuania, part of our ecosystem, we have different governmental institutions, we have investors, we have industry associations, we have large enterprises, and of course, one of the biggest parts that we work with, that's acceleration of the startups, technology startups, working for bringing the technology for the agri-food sector, and of course, technology SMEs, which have already developed different technologies and applying those for the field. Here, very briefly, you can see what our organization consists of, what kind of partners. So as I said before, we have some governmental institutions, we have public authorities, we have big, large enterprises, technology providers, and of course, end users. This is very important also. And we work with the whole food supply chain, that's starting from the primary production in the agri-food sector and then going later on for the manufacturing and even for the horticulture sector until the end users. Our Digital Innovation Hub was recognized by European Commission in their research as one of the examples how sectorial digital innovation hub should operate. So we are very proud of that. We are part of the biggest digital innovation hubs operating in agri-food sector, Smart Agri-Hubs network. We are also a hub for the 8Food, representing 8Food in Lithuania. That's the known organization bringing all novelties and different technologies for the food sector. And we are also recognized and funded by our Lithuanian Ministry of Economy, one of the 4 DICs in Lithuania. And we are waiting to participate. We are official candidate to become EDIC also. Okay, so what are competences? So with what technologies we work? Of course, as you could see, everyone is talking about big data, artificial intelligence, high performance computing, cybersecurity, robotics, drones, and blockchain. This is the future for the upcoming period. And these are technologies which are the most important. And today, why we talk about artificial intelligence? Well, artificial intelligence, as I say, it would not be digitalization with no artificial intelligence. It is the uniting element. That's in my opinion. We can discuss it later with the other experts on that opinion, but without artificial intelligence, we cannot actually achieve the real digitalization in the sector. So if we are really talking about twin transition, so artificial intelligence comes as a must. It's not if, it's only the question of when. And as I mentioned a little bit before, our organization, one of our services that we are providing, so we are providing for the support for investments and attracting startups and helping them to elaborate with their ideas, to attract the funding and etc. And we are welcoming not only the Lithuanian startups working in the digitalization of the agri-food sector and providing different solutions, but we're working with the abroad partners also. And Agri-Food Lithuania Digital Innovation Hub is, these are just the examples. We are recently were approved and involved in one of the biggest consortiums in European Union, working with the in one or other way, applying artificial intelligence on the different use cases, different projects. So that's Flexi, Grow Robots, Corasect, Robotics for You, and Zero Waste Europe. So we have become the partner for those consortiums and for those funded projects in order to apply and demonstrate different technologies. And I should proudly say that artificial intelligence is one of the demonstrated technologies in those projects also. That means that in Lithuania, we really have technology companies who not only starting just from the ideas and developing machine learning algorithms, but also already applying those in the real use cases. About the real use cases and the exact use of the artificial intelligence, probably will talk my colleagues a little bit more in the details. So I'm gonna try to talk a little bit broader where we see the potential for the artificial intelligence, or how we see this digitalization as a system where artificial intelligence unites the whole digitalization process. So if we talk about digitalization, we always must talk about the sustainability also. And there comes the saying sustainable digitalization. That's another good way about looking into the whole food value chain and talk in which cases and in which points could digitalization be applied. And as I said before, artificial intelligence, this is the technology which should unite any point or any process of the digitalization. So in the picture, you can see just an example how the value chain could look digitalized. So talking about different simpler operations, we're talking about efficient workflows, greater accessibility, higher productivity, low operational costs, improved document security, reducing the risks, and etc. And in many cases, when we talk about agri-food value chain, it is on one way, I should say, a little bit similar even from to the other sectors, to the other sectorial value chains. And in these cases, in many cases, we're also trying to bring technology companies or SMEs, because we have many talents working in Lithuania on machine learning. So we're trying to bring those from the different sectors and apply this for the agri-food industry. This is just the example from the workshop that we had last summer, talking about in which parts exactly digitalization could be applied on the agri-food value chain. And when we are looking just at the picture, you can see how complex it is. So starting from the huge cycle on the primary production, that's farming, right? So even farming has a huge life cycle that could be digitalized. And of course, as we are remembering that we have Green Deal goals, so that means that digitalization could help us to achieve the Green Deal goals also, which are being set up. Then the next step, if we will look at the food and drink manufacturing, that's another huge circle that we see, which needs a technological approach. And then we see HoReCa, we see consumers, you see logistics chain. So these are like huge opportunities for the SMEs, technological SMEs, to apply different innovations. But when we talk about digitalization of such a complex, huge value chain, let's remember that these are huge amounts of data. Even now, if we look at the different separate parts, in many cases, we can find that huge amount of data is being already collected, but nothing is being done with this data. So it comes another question, what can we do? And right away, this is the answer: machine learning algorithms with the suggestions, prognosis, with the helping with the efficiency, helping to predict the problems until they are not there, until we don't see those yet. based on the data, help to predict the yield, help to, for example, if we talk about the farming, help to set up the goals, help to keep the crops healthy. If we're talking about the manufacturing, that's another also question, help to lower food waste, help also to prevent the problems which could bring business lower production, and etc., etc. So when we look at this complex food value chain, we see that artificial intelligence, as I said before, it is not if it's needed, it's only when, and in how many places, and how efficiently we can apply it. So this is a very broad field still, even though in Lithuania we have quite many companies working with the machine learning, but still we need much more, and this field is still very open for that. So these are just very short examples where there is a huge potential for the artificial intelligence being applied in the agri-food sector. And as I said before, that's working with the primary production on the farm, that's crop yield prognosis. What are another thing, what are the biggest challenges, for example, for the farmer? If we look at the farmer, so the biggest challenge, first of all, for the farmer is weather, right? So here, if we put as an example, artificial intelligence can bring the predictions based on many data from the previous years, based on the different knowledge what was collected before, which is not being used right now. Meteorological data is being collected in one, for example, place. Then the yields are being collecting the data about yields being collected in the other places. So it's another huge opportunity. Of course, when we talk about artificial intelligence and applying it to the huge amounts of the data, we need to talk also about opening data from the governmental organizations and making the synergy from the public authorities collected data, putting together with the businesses data and achieving much better results based on that. So as you see, the landscape, the possibilities are very huge, and it's still very open. And in many cases, we're just seeing the beginning, I should say, of the age for the artificial intelligence. Probably everyone can find many skeptical views on internet, and from some even other experts are talking that it is too complicated, especially if we talk about the agri-food sector. It's the most conservative sector and the least digitalized sector in the world. And right away, we bring artificial intelligence. So I always get the question, so how the farmer is gonna get used to this, how they're gonna be learning? Well, I always say, if we do it right, if we apply it right, it should be simple. Technology should not be hard to understand if it's employed in the right way. Still there is much to be done, but what I'm very proud of, that I see many talents, really many talents and many technological SMEs who are ready, who are interested in agri-food, for example, sector, and who are ready to work with it and are already working. And to say the least, we are very welcoming not only our SMEs from our country, from our community, but we're also attracting other SMEs that are welcoming to come and bring their solutions and try to apply on our, for example, piloting in farmers on the farms, or piloting their solution on manufacturing lanes or in HoReCa sector, and try to connect all that in one chain, in one lane. So we act as an organization, this orchestrator, and I see that no doubt artificial intelligence plays a huge and very important role, and without it there will be no digitalization that we talk about, and there will be a not efficient twin transition. So in order to have it effective, efficient, we need to even more encourage deploying and applying artificial intelligence to different parts of the agri-food value chain. So thank you very much for your attention. If you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer.
Yes, Christina, thank you very much. Great overview of what your innovation hub does. So I have a few questions. If anyone has, please write them down in the chat. So first of all, you mentioned a few technologies that you work with, and big data, artificial intelligence, that's a big one, blockchain, robotics, and so on. Which one of those would you say is the hottest right now? Which one everyone wants to work with? Which one is on the top at the moment? Which one is the buzziest keyword for you in the Agrotech?
Well, first of all, I should say that when we talk about digitalization, so everyone understands differently this word and keyword. So probably the hottest word is digitalization, if we talk about that. Then later on, it comes different technologies. And those that I've mentioned in my presentation, these are all of them are quite hot topics. It depends on which part, where you're going to be applying and what. So it really, I would like to say we are a drugstore. So you come and say what kind of pain you have, and then I would say what kind of medicine I'm going to be applying, what kind of technology, how it could be done. So, but none of the less artificial intelligence, that's a technology uniting all the other parts. Like, for example, if we talk about the robotics, so we need artificial intelligence. If we talk about big data, by no means we need artificial intelligence, and etc., etc. So all of those technologies are important, and artificial intelligence even is an umbrella, I should say, for those technologies to deploy them and to show real value of those technologies.
Yeah, it is. And Sorana is asking in the chat, where do you see the adoption of artificial intelligence more? Is it in startups or in already existing enterprises? Which of them are more keen to implement artificial intelligence? What would be your take?
Well, thank you very much for the question. It's a very great question. Well, first of all, when we talk about those technologies, artificial intelligence, robotics, blockchain, etc., we always need to remember that to develop them and deploy them, it's quite pricey. So on one hand, like big enterprises or technology companies which have been working for years on some kind of solutions, right, or products, they already have the solutions, but in many cases, these solutions are quite pricey, or they need a very pricey infrastructure to deploy them. So on the other hand, startups, these are like very bright young people who come and right away bring something new. And why we encourage those companies? Because we need to lower the price of the technologies and the digitalized products, digital products. So startups are those who are, I say, very adaptive, and they bring totally new view or totally new products, which could be not as prices. So I think the best way would be for everyone to collaborate, but startups are the ones who, as I say, kick in the ass everyone, and then bring this message that even the older companies, they need to adapt and bring even better solutions, not to sleep on the top just with the products that they have developed so far.
Yes, thank you. And could you mention any specific success story of your example? Could you give an example of how a Lithuanian company, Lithuanian startup, or an enterprise have adopted or implemented digitalization AI solutions? Could you point out any specific company? I know we are going to hear from some today, but from those, there are a lot of who are not here today. So could you mention?
Yeah, I was gonna say, you're gonna hear the real use cases today being presented by our presenters. But for example, when we talk about the crop protection, for example, artificial intelligence is already counting and doing algorithms and suggesting to the farmers how it should be proceeded. We have the use case where artificial intelligence is helping to grow insects. So this is very interesting solution developed by Lithuanians. Then vertical farming, we have the company which developed vertical farming. Of course, we need to remember that in the closed environments or controlled environments, it's much easier to develop such solutions, but still these are great examples that Lithuanians are developing from the scratch and being noticed on EU and world level, bringing disruptive technologies.
Yeah, something I just wanted to ask about. So what would you say Lithuania is, I don't know, well known or famous about? Is there anything in the Agro-tech sector? Are we famous for anything in the European level? Are we known for anything, for any specific reasons or traits or stories? What would you say is the general opinion about Lithuania in this topic?
Well, I could say there is the saying that it's very hard to be famous in your own yard. So in many cases, Lithuanian tech companies are much more known on EU level because they are very being invited very keenly to different consortiums because of the complex technologies that we can provide or complex technologies that we create. So I should proudly say that we are being noticed on EU level, and probably if you take any biggest consortiums in the agri-food sector, I'm talking about my sector, right? So you would find at least one Lithuanian tech company going and presenting their tech solutions. So we have GovTech in Lithuania, we have FinTech. So I can say we should really think about Agritech for sure, because we have very good talent here.
Yeah, I have the same thoughts after reading about Agritech in Lithuania. I didn't know. I have to admit, I didn't know much of it, and there are quite famous companies and doing some great stuff. Great, a few more questions from the chat. So Lina is asking, what is your focus? Organic farms or agriculture in general?
Well, for the organization, it doesn't really matter if it's organic farming or just the general agri-food value chain on any part of the value chain, but the biggest focus is to transform agri-food sector. So when we are talking about transforming agri-food sectors, so organic farming, of course, comes as a part of the Green Deal. So of course, we are also working with the organic farming. And to tell you the truth, also, I've been talking a lot that from one point of view, it seems that not much could be done with the, for example, lots of technology on the organic farming, but on the other hand, I've seen many nice use cases which improve organic farming. And for example, I know for sure that wasn't in Lithuania, but in Denmark, when robotics with the artificial intelligence has prevented organic farm from going bankrupt. during the COVID, when the human resources were so low or minimum because the people could not travel. So that farmer was like on the edge going bankrupt. And that's a true story when the robots solved with artificial intelligence, machine learning solved the main challenge on the farm.
Great. Yeah. Thank you for an example, an interesting one and very practical. And the last question from Mantas, how can we use AI to optimize scale up processes? Best wishes from Lithuania and solid.crop. So I think it's quite a specific question, but I don't know if you can reply to that.
Yeah, well, it is very specific question. It could be used, of course, in many ways, but I'm not sure. Like, it depends really on the use case, like about what kind of part we are talking or about what kind of use case. So if anyone like has more specific question or just wants to talk in more details, or maybe suggest their solution for our organization, just feel free to write me, and we are very open for the discussions.
Okay. What is the right way to reach you? How can Mantas contact you?
The email, yeah, Christina@agrifood.lt. Very easy, very simple.
Christina@agrifood.lt.
.lt, yeah.
Okay, I'll just write it in the chat. So, Mantas, I think it can be quite specific and it might take some time to answer your specific question. But if you're working in the field, I think Christina would be anyway interested in getting to know you. So thank you very much, Christina. Thank you for presenting. And we are going to move forward. By the way, Mantas is saying, awesome, thank you. I'm going to share the email in the chat. I hope that's okay. So you might receive a few emails. So thank you once again. That was Christina Šermukšnytė Alešiūnienė. We'll meet her in the discussion later. Thank you very much, Christina.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks everyone for questions. As mentioned, great presentations coming and going. Now we are going to hear from Professor Tomas Krilavičius, Dean of the Faculty of Informatics at Vytautas Magnus University. Tomas' main research interests are applications of AI and language technologies. Tomas also is a co-founder of several companies, member of the Informational Systems Technology Panel at NATO Science and Technology Organization. So yeah, Thomas, you can see Thomas in all kinds of events about AI and technologies. He's really into these topics, and today he's going to talk about humans, AI, and agriculture versus 2.0. So humans plus AI equals agriculture 2.0. Hi, Thomas. I can already see you. Can you hear me well?
Yes. Hello, Lucas. Thank you for a nice introduction. And let's move to AI and humans in agriculture. So basically today I wanted to discuss several topics. So I still want to repeat short intro on what is AI, just several slides, so we don't forget and do not mix it with all other technologies which are not necessarily AI. Then I want to discuss AI in agriculture, a bit on precision farming, livestock management, digital twins, and actually what we can AI in agriculture these days in Lithuania. So just some potential ideas, not necessarily the best ones. So still for most people AI are these things. Hopefully it's changing, but still we expect a lot of robots, a lot of intelligence things which are going to take over, etc. But in reality, it's just some very technical thing. So we have some nice definitions. One of them from actually Lithuanian AI strategy is flexible rational agent that perceives its environment and takes actions that maximize a chance of success at some goal. It's vague enough to be acceptable because basically everybody has their own definition of what is AI. But in this case, we have the most important elements. So you observe, or your agent AI observes environments and takes some actions to achieve some goal. So you have this observation analysis, and actually you have to define the exact goal. And sometimes these systems can be very simple, but still when if we talk about artificial intelligence, we expect something more complex, just when just switching light on and off, because it's also kind of intelligence. It observes environment, and based on the light, it can switch it on and off. But let's move to agriculture and AI. So I looked a bit and, classification on ranking, how you can apply AI in agriculture. And you can apply it in really different areas. And I would say that you can look at quite different aspects and still think, is it still agriculture or it's more general application? So of course it could be crop cultivation or livestock. These are really agriculture applications, and probably most of the time when people think about agriculture, they think about these things. But when you have other part of the agriculture life cycle, so you have production of machinery for agriculture, or later on food production, or for example, support things such as insurance, financing agriculture, etc. So these elements also participate in life cycle. And probably at some moment it could make sense to look at them, especially nowadays when we are talking about whole cycles or ring economies or circular economies or stuff like that. Then of course you have some almost business applications which are almost agnostic to specific areas. So for example, when it comes to agriculture, logistics is very important thing, especially when you work with livestock. General management of your agricultural company or small business or big business, accounting practices, and these things you have almost, or I would say in most of the businesses, and they are still important. And you can look at this area. They are almost, sometimes it doesn't matter, is it agriculture or not, but still there could be some specific elements where you have to take care of, and then it will be related with AI. So let's move to more specific cases. So precision farming, actually I expect that in the following presentation it will be discussed a bit more. But what we have, we can monitor our crops using drones, using satellite imaging, using Internet of Things, so different sensors, and then identify issues. So is it humid enough? Do we need to add some fertilizers? Do you have to use some pest control? And in the end, you can have some decision support and maybe actions there. If you have smart devices, they can, deliver fertilizers to specific location, or some pesticides, or just water some plants if we are talking not about big plantation of crops, but greenhouse, for example. So, and of course, these things are done for a long time already, but I mean, now it can be precise. So it doesn't mean that you have to fertilize huge areas, fertilize very specific area where you need it. But as I said, I expect that precision farming will be discussed a bit more in the next presentation. When actually the topic which is less discussed, probably when you talk about AI in agriculture, but you have something called livestock management. And automation levels are very different, but most of the time, actually, when you look at automation in this area, it's 10, 20 years old. So often you already have, let's say, automatic humidity and temperature support, so that's fine. But when you have other solutions which are required, and you want to automate these things to make things work better. So, for example, you have to weigh pigs if you want to know how they are doing, or you want to choose food properly. So that your animals stay healthy and grow as fast as possible. Or if you talk about some ideas where, for example, you want to track, your beef or pork all the time. So it means that you want to somehow identify the animal all the time. For example, there are solutions with pig face recognition. Then you basically, as in the same way you identify humans from their face, you can try to identify cows or pigs, maybe chicken, and then track them all their life to make more precise decisions. Or if you are growing fish, again, you can use some solutions to identify and help these fish to grow as fast as possible. And actually, if you start looking for solutions in these areas, they are not so common. So it's not so trivial to find, for example, AI-based solution for pig weighting or something like that. And then, of course, what we are moving towards, so we talk about digital twins in manufacturing. We talk about digital twins in some energy production. In agriculture, it's the same. You want to have digital twin of your farm, especially if you are a big farmer and you want to do planning. You want to play with different solutions, see what would happen, monitor what's happening in your area. And when you want to deploy very different devices to collect data, but basically you want to have model and maybe play with different simulations and see what would happen. So these things are, of course, still under development or under research, but they are coming, and at some moment we will deploy them. And of course, you can look at high levels, so digital twin of farm, but it could be digital twin of your plant, maybe. And you want to analyze specific plants and actually to find the best conditions for them to grow, especially in greenhouses, and especially with possibility to deploy automation where you can, precisely water or fertilize your plant. The same thing with livestock. So you want to track your cow or your pig and to see how it behaves, does it, conforms to requirements, etc. So these are, let's say, the areas which are strongly under development and a lot of people working in these areas. And of course, you could list a lot of more specific solutions which are being developed or already being sold. But I think that there are some things where Lithuania could easily do something nice. And we already heard that a lot of different companies proposing very nice and competitive solutions. And I think Augustas will tell more about their solutions as well. But there are some things which are not done too much. For example, I just looked, it's a bit older statistics, but I was not able to find new one. But if you look at statistics, you have a lot of old tractors everywhere. So even in US, only 10% tractors are aged less than 5 years over the last decades. And as I said, I don't have new data, but I wouldn't expect that they have improved a lot. So it means that you have a lot of old machinery, which if you want to use this machinery for precise agriculture, to control them, to monitor what's happening in your fields or how you use it, it means you have to be able to augment this machinery with IoT and other smart devices. And that's one of the areas, of course, quite a few people working on that, but usually producers of new tractors, we just want to sell new devices. But what you can do, you can supplement these machines with solutions with specific devices, which would help a lot to improve them and to extend their lifetime. Or it could be even for small farms or specific cases, it could be even smartphone-based solutions. And actually, it's a bit different topic, but it's discussed a lot in, for example, smart house or other AI-related solutions. But probably as a farmer, you would like to talk with your tractor or other of your devices in your mother tongue, Lithuanian, Polish, whatever. And that's also something which is not very common these days. So probably you can talk, with Amazon Echo today at home in English, but not in many other languages, maybe Spanish or German as well, but for sure not Lithuanian. So why not to add these things to your devices as well? And well, probably you have heard a bit about right to repair. And you have such, titles why American farmers are hacking their tractors with Ukrainian firmware. So I expect that it could be a title where it says why worldwide farmers are upgrading their tractors with Lithuanian solutions. Why not? I think we have smart people, we have technologies, we can do that. So that's one of the ways to go. And probably even now some people are working on that. So when actually I think that when it comes to smart livestock management, there is still quite a big gap for these solutions. And for example, logistics. So how you deliver pigs, cows, or chicken from your growing facilities to other facilities. And usually when you look at logistics, you have solutions for really big companies or for controlling long distance fleet or maybe, parcel delivery. But when it comes to livestock, you have very strict regulations. And then you may need specific solutions for this thing. And they should be cheap as well. As I mentioned Christina before, some of solutions are too expensive for smaller farms. Then, of course, you want to monitor what's happening with your livestock. And actually, most of the solutions still rely on older style approach. So not image processing, for example, but you have to add some complicated devices where, for example, your pig should go over, you look at the scales and then you say, but then you are not really able to identify or fit, etc. So I expect that these solutions are under development right now, but if you want to buy such, it's not trivial, it's not easy. And then actually, again, you can move to feeding part. So of course you have automation in feeding. But for example, choosing right food based on data, based on monitoring animals, you wouldn't find such solutions, especially for medium or small farms. Again, maybe you have solutions for really big corporations which deal in that, but not for something small and medium, which are, common farms in Lithuania, Poland, or Latvia, for example. And then actually you can move to other things as well. So, for example, it's not exactly agriculture, but as I said, you have around your agriculture supporting industries or other type of support. And here you can go back to basics. For example, you can use peer-to-peer insurance for farmers. So in the middle here, we have picture of Lloyd's, how insurance started in general. So just, ship owners, they just put money together and they had some kind of insurance for themselves. I think that farmers could do that as well. And we already have worldwide some companies, and in Lithuania who are working on such type insurance, but not for farmers, but for example, phones, etc. So probably farmers could do these things as well, or just even insurance companies could try to develop more intelligent solutions that would make crop insurance, for example, cheaper for farmers, but still beneficial for companies. And of course you can think about hundreds, if not thousands, such solutions which could support, agriculture as well. Or, it would be nice to build some digital twins, for example, in Lithuania, or still in quite a few cases, Lithuania is presented as, potato country. So why not to build digital twin of potato? As far as I know, there is no such digital twin yet. So it could be nice to have such solution and see how it works. So if you ask artificial intelligence, is it already time to adopt in agriculture? Is it too early or too late? So I would say that it's just the right time to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. Thank you for your presentation. The first question that comes from a chat is, just a second. Yes, Victoria is asking, can I receive your presentation by email? Is it possible? Could you share your presentation?
Sure. Yes. So she can just email me and I'll send it.
Okay. Thomas, what's your email then? So Victoria can hear it and write it to you.
Yes. So just, I write it down in the chat.
Okay. So I'll share it. I'll share it with everyone.
Yeah.
Yes. So Victoria, you'll be able to ask. So it's an interesting mention. You said that Lithuania is known as a potato country. Didn't know that myself. And you gave some a roundup of the whole topic. And Thomas, can you think of any specific examples or companies that you think are doing great in AI and agriculture, in digitalization? Are there any success stories you could share with us?
I couldn't tell any names of the companies right now, but I know that quite a few companies are looking at precise agriculture, so precise farming solutions. Some people are developing solutions for pig weighting.
Sorry, I couldn't catch up. For what? The solutions for?
Well, so basically, you know how fast your pigs are growing.
Oh, okay.
And then you want to monitor things. So I think, as far as I know, some people are working on that, but as long as we are not public, I don't think I want to mention them.
Okay. Oh, so they're still a kind of a secret what they are working on, and they are in their early stages, right?
Well, that's, I do not know the details. I just know that they're interested in the solutions. I know about some solutions for, logistics for livestock management as well, or interest in building some feeding solutions.
Great. Okay, I see, Mikhail. I'll see you joining us in our inside chat for speakers. Mikhail is going to join us in the discussions. He's not going to present, but I can see that you hear us, Michael. So you can present us shortly. You already told me a few examples of the technologies. So thank you very much, Thomas, for the moment. Let's meet in the discussion and talk more there. So thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Yes, let's move on so we can keep up with time. And now we are going to hear from Augustas Aleshunas. He's the CEO of R21, which is a boutique innovation house delivering agri-food tech solutions that shape the future of agriculture, food, and associated sectors. The mission of R21 is to make our agriculture and food more efficient, sustainable, and healthy with the help of breakthrough technologies. And a boutique, I think that's an understatement, since Augustas is also known for being an inspiring and active entrepreneur. He started his first business when he was 12. went bankrupt at the age of 16, and now successfully represents a wide range of modern agricultural solutions. The R21 already employs, let's say, 52 people, but I think Augustus has more companies. I don't know. I'm not even sure if he can count all of these companies that he's working on at the moment. So really interesting to hear from him. Augustus, good to have you here. I can see you already. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Hey, how are you?
Hey, good to have you. So I hope I didn't lie with the presentation. How many people are already working in your companies?
Total, I would say it's about 125. So I'll give it
okay. So yeah, Agrotech is understatement. And you are connecting from where at the moment?
Listen, it's a miracle, but I'm still in Lithuania, so it's my office. And since all my conference rooms are occupied with my team, so I just sit in one of the.
As I know, you travel a lot, and this doesn't happen often. So nice to have you here in Lithuania. So, okay, Augustus, we are listening to what you have to say. Really interesting. The possibilities of enabling drones using artificial intelligence today. And Augustus Alesčiūnas is going to talk us through it. So, Augustus, the stage is yours.
Thank you so much, Lucas, and thanks for the intro. Technically, you saved like 5 minutes of my time, so I would save talking about myself. But yeah, you were discussing with Thomas at the end and asking him a question. So which company does the AI-based solutions for the agri-industry or agri-food industry? So I know one, very good. It's called ART21 and it's my company. But if to be serious, I think, okay, so let's start a little bit from the statistics and then I will swap to my presentation, which is prepared, so don't worry. Statistically, agri-food industry is the less digitalized and robotized industry in the world at the moment. But by the McKinsey research, it has the biggest potential, and technically in general opinion, it has the biggest potential to become the digitalized, autonomous and robotized in the world. And if we would take the last year, which I'm calling Corona year or COVID-19 year, within the past year, agri-food technology companies in the world has raised the same amount of money which they have been raising for the past decade. So within a year, a decade investments came to the agri-food industry to digitalize it. And of course, this was one of the sectors which got the biggest impact when the supply chain was not working, the people couldn't go abroad, work in different farms. So a lot of issues, and then they realized that they need to automate, add some robots, and in general make the agri-food industry to work more efficiently. So it's good. The trend is going up. I know that in Europe there are not many companies. I mean, I know them all. It's about 50 companies who are doing the digital solutions for the agri industry. And why? Because it's expensive. It's way more expensive than to do the software for the fintech or for the Agro-tech. And the answer is very simple. Why? It's because it's not about building the system on different kind of algorithms based on AI. It's about that in the agri, you need to have the data, which is different. If you want to do some kind of cattle monitoring, you need to grow the cow and then collect the data from the cow. If you are doing some solutions for the crop management, monitoring, disease recognition, you need to physically grow the wheat, the rapeseed, the barley, and then collect the data from there. Plus, give it or take, the weather conditions, rains, many kind of climate conditions are changing. And the data in the agri industry, it's about 5 to 6 times more expensive than actual built up of the system, of the technology itself. So therefore, most of the startups, they don't calculate that and they just burn because of lack of the cash flow or lack of the data. And then the systems or the technologies or the models, what they built, they just simply doesn't work. So this is the biggest struggle. And to wrap up my intro, my company, the first company was founded in 2008. And I was the first person in Lithuania who raised venture capital funds, then funds from the private angels, from corporates to foster up, to boost up. And the thing what I was not talking before is that from 2008 to 2017, end of 16, company was always going cashless minus. So it was always, below the zero. We were always burning the money, and most of the products were not profitable. Because firstly, to build them, you take 5 years minimum because of the data. Secondly, agri has great potential because it's less competition. You can see how the products works, and I will show the use cases of my own. But from another hand, you need to train the market because the farmers, they are rural and they are not so into the agri-tech than, when we are talking about the urban citizens and the way how we are living here. So it took a decade to become profitable. And yeah, I'm the first guy who bought out all the venture capital funds, and now I'm on my own. Plus I do the investments by myself to different kind of startups, which is also a challenge because there are no many startups which is really doing something, valuable. But listen, so if to save the time, and I know that I'm having about 15 minutes to go more, I want to share the slides with you. And the idea itself is that I will showcase few of the use cases and technologies, what we have done, and I will try to explain why we've done that and why in this way. And also what I will pinpoint and I will explain you in examples is that, as I said, firstly, the data is the oil in the agri-tech. Secondly, the business models. The business models itself is the oil. I just went out of the big consortium meeting of all the biggest corporates in Lithuania. And we were thinking about the future of Lithuania and the disruption of Lithuania. And believe me or not, but we were not talking about which new technology to develop and to bring to the market. We were thinking about what kind of new models, business models to develop to help for the farmers to adopt the technologies. And this is the lack and gap in both ways. Before going there, just because I understand we are talking in international arena, unfortunately, I don't know with whom I'm talking to and how many people are listening, but nevertheless, just a short intro so about the company itself and the business model. So what we do, ART21 is biggest in the Baltics applied research and technology development house. Bigger than me are institutes and universities, which are governmentally owned and based. And what we do in the company, we combine different kind of disciplines, science disciplines, combine them in one and try to come up with a solution to solve one of the challenges which are in the market at the moment. And other thing, important one, I think, is talking about the business model of the ART21, is that we, in the administration department, we are 4 people. All other people in the company, they are researchers, engineers, programmers, data scientists, and on. So, I mean, it's super lean structure, and we don't sell to no one. What we do is whether we are doing applied research by specific order, from commission, from different universities, we are working with all the academia in Europe. In most of the cases, we are known there more than in Lithuania. Or once we develop the technology, we throw it to the market by having our distributors network. So we are super focused on development and production, nothing more. And this is, we know how to do it well. And when I am talking about the international arena, a few facts to mention. Well, firstly, ART21 is only one company from the Baltics, which managed to get in the biggest historically financed European projects, 35 million euro. For the IOF 2020. And with these big guys, where you see the logos, we were developing different use cases, which now are being implemented in different kind of countries across the Europe. Secondly, what Christina were telling, so I'm not gonna stop here. We are the members of Agri-Food Lithuania, DIH, one of the co-founders at the beginning. So we are there. And the last but not least, we are the members, the core partner, only also one in the Baltic states in EAT Food as the core partner. So we also work with all these companies, corporates, by serving them, developing the technologies, and then they bring it to the market. And in most of the cases, even nobody knows that it's done by ART21, but it's fine. We are always more about the money than the fame. So it's good for us. And now I'm gonna show a short video of about 1 minute and 20 seconds talking about the first of 3 use cases, which I prepared for today. And this is the biggest investments to one technology per our history. Now we already invested more than 7 million euro. and it's called Mobile Flying Laboratory. So just have a look at the video, and then I will elaborate why and when, and why we've done that in general. And now I'm trying to launch it.
It is a unique mobile flying laboratory with no equivalent in the world, capable of assessing complex crop physiological processes and detecting non-visual signs of crop metabolism under field conditions. This innovative technology removes the need for a traditional laboratory and determines the amount of chemical elements in each crop in the field, all done very quickly and at an attractive price. The findings of the analysis give farmers an opportunity to improve on their crop production sustainability and efficiency due to prediction of potential plant stress and the lack of micro and macronutritional elements, efficient fertilization time, substance and quantity planning, optimization of work planning and resource utilization. Results are obtained by crop field scanning with high-resolution hyperspectral cameras, which, depending on field size, can be mounted on drones or even airplanes. The gathered multidimensional spectral data is processed by advanced artificial intelligence algorithms and converted into information relevant for the farmer.
Trying to cancel that one. Not sure how to move out of the YouTube. Just give me a second. I will try to.
If you press escape on your keyboard, I think that would work.
Yeah. I'm pressing that, but it doesn't work. Magic. Thank you so much. So, Mobile Flying Laboratory. From out of those 7 millions, only 2 millions were invested to build actual physical laboratories. And we've done that to make the research on the plants, because the main idea is like this, that we've flown about 10,000 of fields within the past 5 years with drones, with planes. We are having the plane fleet now in our company where we are doing the research. We scan gazillions of terabytes by using different kinds of cameras, and all this is just because to fine-tune and to calibrate the algorithms, which is nothing so special and nothing so new in the market. But it took 5 years to gather the data. This is when I was talking before about the oil and the data in the agri-food industry. And why we've done that, it's, well, these are the goals of the Green Deal and the European Commission. So to reduce the pesticides, fertilizers, and the food waste. And we are all talking about the fact that we want to have the healthier food. We want to protect the soil in all of our countries in the EU. And this is super important. To do that, we need to stop using the chemicals. But from another hand, when we are talking about stop using the chemicals, the question is how to do that and how to make the alternative options and possibilities for the farmers to still get the yield and still to work profitable. So this is how we come up with a solution. And the main idea is that this is statistic not Lithuanian, it's European wide, is that till now, in most of the countries, what farmers does is they are taking the experience and the knowledge from their family, from their fathers, and in most of the cases, they are consuming fertilizers or using fertilizers and pesticides and fungicides by their own eye or by their own opinion, what's supposed to be done based on the historical actions in the past. But when we are talking about the fact that the Commission will reduce by 50% usage of those chemicals, they just simply cannot do that anymore. And they are kind of like a little bit confused because there is no alternatives. So this is when we are coming up with the model and with a solution to identify all the nutritional components in the field, plus to give the idea about the potential of the diseases when it's still not visible by the human eyes. But there is one but. As you've seen in the video, we are having hyperspectral cameras, which God knows what it is. We are having UAV machines. We are having the planes. And then when we are coming to the fact that the farmer doesn't understand how to use the technology and how to buy, because definitely one farm will not buy the planes and the hyperspectral cameras, which is more than 100K per set. And the other problem is that there is no financing models to help the farmer, because if we would look at the history of the union in different country, different period, but it was a time when the political decision was to help farmers to modernize the machinery. So the harvesters and the tractors, and what the country's done, they said, okay, so we are making the financing programs where you will get the pre-financing or co-financing of the machinery by 50, 70, 40%, depend on the program. Then, and now we all see beautiful new tractors in the fields and everything is fine. Then the next phase came and they said, okay, so we see that farmers does not have their own infrastructure to store the crop, to dry them, to clean them. They are just, directly from the field, they're selling the crop, which gives lower price, lower added value and stuff like this. Then they finance the infrastructure to build the silos, to build the dryers and stuff like this. And now when we are coming to the digitalization wave, which I would call number 3, because 2 has passed already, farmers don't want to invest to the digital solutions. They want to use the technologies as a services. And we are coming to the fact when I was saying that it's tough and difficult to make the digital solutions for the agri industry, because now we need to think about the models, how to help the farmers to get the funds to buy the technologies. So it's about the lobbying, and it's about the lobbying EU-wise, national-wise, wherever-wise. I mean, it's really complicated. And then, for example, with this specific technology, what we've done, because firstly, we were trying to sell it as the service by, having our service operator going to the field, launching the drone, scanning the field, and giving the layer to the farmer where he sees every single nutritional component of the crop. And then he can make the maximum precision diet for the crop, how to treat it, what to give it to him, what not, and blah, blah, blah. But then we realized that for us, the production price, the service fee is way higher than the farmer gets the benefits. So now we are talking about not the technological barrier, but business modeling barrier. And what we've done, as I said before, we just rented the planes. And now we are flying and scanning entire country with the cameras. And then the farmer, from the farmer perspective, he just needs to log in to the system, choose his fields on which he want to get the results. So those layers, disease layers, nutritional components layers, and he pays few euro per hectare. That's it, because we already scanned entire country. But it was challenging to come up to this kind of dot where it has to be done in this way. The other thing is that till now, I mean, the governments in Europe, they are saying, yes, farmers need to digitalize themselves, but they are not subsidizing purchase of the services, which means that farmers will not buy the planes, as I said before, which is allowed. But when they want to use the service, they cannot get the co-financing. So, I mean, now it will take another 3 to 4 years to make the new regulations, to make the new financing period, schemes and programs. So this is one of the things, as my previous colleague was telling, that Agritech is delaying 10 years if to compare with other industries, 15 years, 8 years, whatever. But it's delaying because of all those complications, regulations and things. And as you know, the farmers in Europe, they cannot understand that the business can be done without the subsidizing. I mean, we train them to think in this way, and this is the mindset. And because the farming is directly correlated with the subsidizing schemes, it's always lagging the time frame. And if to conclude this topic, so I always saying, because now in society, we are all demanding from the farmers that they need to be environmental sustainable, environmental friendly. But from another hand, I also understand the farmers, because if we are taking the scales, so society is demanding to be environmental friendly and sustainable, but the farmer is still the businessman. And at the end of the year, he is looking at the bottom line, which is called profit loss. So now I would say 85% of all the digital technologies in the market, they help to be environmental sustainable, but they not bring the value in the financial perspective. So this is where we also are trying to work a lot as the company, as the member of different kind of ecosystems, as the member of Digital Innovation Hub. In most of the cases, this is the idea, to bring the technologies which would be equal financially, environmentally. And once this attitude will come up to all the stakeholders in the industry, I think the results will come up faster. I'm not talking pessimistically. I'm just saying the actual real experience and the behavior of the market and the industry, what's happening at the moment. I see that I have 5 minutes. So what I'm going to do is I will just jump quickly on different use cases for you to understand how fun it can be to make the digital solutions in the agri challenging, but fun. And I think that's why my team loves to work on that, because we are having the rotation in the company of about 0.5% annually. I mean, so when they come, they don't leave, even they are allowed to quit the company. They just remains here. So one of the cases, interesting one, we won the tender from the Croatian government, and what we do, well, preamble, honey is among top 5 the most counterfeited products in the world. So in most of the cases, whether you are consuming honey, it's with the sugar additives, or it's not even the honey at all. And in Croatia, they are having a lot of issues about that. So they hired us to make the system based on spectroscopy and AI, which could identify, to scan the product, the honey itself, I mean, and to identify whether it's a honey at the end of the day, and if it's a honey, how much of the sugar additives it is. So now the veterinary authorities and the services, what they are capable to do is they go to the shops, to the markets, whatever, on the customs, on the border, and they scan the honey which comes to the country or which is being sold in the country as the homegrown product, and they see the probability that it's counterfeited product. So in this way, we are kind of fighting against the fake food. And this is really interesting because we need to collect about 100,000, I think, of the samples of honey from entire the world. So it was fun. And then we, of course, consume the honey, the good one, not with the sugar additives. So it's nice to be. Other interesting thing, which already kind of outlined the European market, is we are working on a project to identify the wild boars in the forests. And why? Because most probably you know it's a African plague, which is wild boar or pig African plague, which is in all the countries of the Europe, and that's why they slaughtered a lot of swine and pig farms and stuff like this. So what we are challenging and facing now is we are creating the system which could fly above the forests, track the boars, count them, and by doing that simultaneously, to identify how they are navigating throughout the country, from where they come, where they go. It's similar as we are now having with the immigration crisis, but just, the boars. And the idea is like this, that by having this statistic, the governments can make the decision what to do. This is one thing. But the interesting thing is that this year I was traveling throughout Africa, and it seems that the rhinos are one of the most valuable assets in the national parks there. So now we are moving and shifting this technology to rhino traceability technology in the national parks in Africa, which is cool because it's always warm and I hate cold, so it's nice to be there. So scalability of those technologies, it's interesting, but try to imagine to get the data about the wild boar. You need to literally fly day by day, month by month above different kind of forests to catch the wild boar, because we don't have the areas where they are, fenced. And this is the challenge, I mean, to chase the boars when you don't know where they are. So this is the fun part about gathering the data in the agri-food industry. The plant, of course, from the literature, I hope, no, not from actual experience. So one thing is also what we do by using the spectroscopy solutions. When you scan the cannabis, you can identify the level of the cannabinoids there. And by knowing the level of that, you can understand whether you are still on the good side or you already, outlaw. So we are doing the system for the farmers, so they would be able to understand where is the maximum capacity of the cannabinoids and when you need to harvest, not to become the illegal one. And to finalize and conclude, 1 minute left. Cool project, I love it. Also doing in the Balkans by the Adriatic Sea. we are creating the specific solution for the farmers who grows the oysters, to scan them and to understand different kind of parameters. Firstly, the freshness. Secondly, the heavy metals inside the oysters, because now they don't have any kind of valuation and monetization schemes. And once they collect the oysters and they let them go throughout the supply chain, only in the supermarkets, in most of the cases, the inspectors are doing the tests. And once they found that the oysters are, they couldn't go to the market because of the heavy metals and different kind of toxins, then the traceability goes back to the farm, and they are getting that value of the fines that they cannot survive simply at all, no more. So we are trying to make the cheap system so the farmers could double check when they are collecting the harvest of the oysters, whether it's okay and they can go it throughout the supply chain, or it's better to utilize and to think why that happened, what had happened. So yeah, to sum up, to build the technologies in the Agritech, it's super cool because you actually can feel the material, the oyster, to chase the wild boar, to see how the crops are growing and fly with the planes, and to scan the fields. But it takes a lot of time, and to bring the products to the market, it's not enough just to change the consumer behavior. You need to change entire regulation scheme, as I said, pan-European, European, national level. Challenging, interesting if you are playing there for a long time. I'm happy that I'm here for almost 14 years. I'm gonna continue my work. So thanks so much. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you, Augustus. And I need a moment to get back to you, since it was so intense and such a great presentation with a lot of study cases that could each, I think, become another presentation: wild boar monitoring, hemp analysis, honey analysis. Okay. Let's start from the beginning. If anyone has any questions in the chat, please let me know. Daiva is agreeing with me. She says that great presentation and use cases. And okay, so Augustus, you mentioned some funny things, as for example, that farmers usually do as their fathers did in the old times and so on. I was wondering, why could you elaborate on why data in agriculture is expensive? Could you? I don't know if I really understood that. Why, especially why in this field the data is more expensive than in other fields? Why is that?
Okay, for example, if you want to do some kind of AI algorithm-based system to analyze the behavior of consumers from the bank, what you need to do is most probably you need to have a bunch of the Excel files with the numbers, with the ClickUps in the system to analyze the behavior there. So technically you can track them and get the numbers from the software. And when we are talking about the expensiveness of the data in the agri, as I said, you need to wait for the time when the crop is grown to scan it. You need to wait for the day when it's bright without the rain. You need to have those bloody planes to fly. You are always into the correlation with the nature and with the climate conditions. Take the same boar. We cannot just take the pictures of the boars from the online. We need to physically chase it with the UAV, with the drones, with the planes, to find it, to capture it, and to do that hundreds of times. So to collect the data, it's complicated and difficult because it's a living creatures, it's a living plants, which you need to find, you need to wait for the moment, and you need to hope that this moment was the proper one, not the wrong one. And then still you need to do a lot of bunch laboratory things to correlate the data with the actual fact. So you need to capture it, expensive. You need to calibrate the system with the actual facts from the laboratory, expensive because you need to have a labs. Now we are having about 7 laboratories only in Lithuania to fine tune the AI systems. So in agri, it's not enough to have the programmers in the office. You need to have a bunch of infrastructure, equipment, devices, machines to test and to validate those models. That's why it's getting more and more expensive to build a different kind of solutions.
Great. We have a few more questions. So Sorana is asking, as farmers seem to be more reluctant to technology, are there any initiatives in place for education educating them on the use and practice of these technologies? Maybe EU Commission's initiatives or local ones. Do you know any, Augustas?
So listen, Commission does not do initiatives. They do the financing programs, and this is the initiative of the Commission to give the money. Now, talking about the initiatives in the market, I could talk, I don't know, an hour. Take the Agri-Food Lithuania, take ART21. Annually, we are doing about 150 events for the farmers, only in Lithuania. So we are gathering about 15,000 of the farmers every year by showcasing the technologies, by training them, by educating, by showing how it works, why it makes sense, by doing different kind of workshops, seminars, and stuff like this. Take the same, I don't know, EAT food. There are a bunch of programs for the farmers to test the technologies in their farms, and even they are getting paid to test the technology. So A, they are getting the technology for free. B, they are getting paid for their time to test and to validate. So many, many things. And yes, it's happening, but it's super slow, because I think that in the future, farmers will not pay at all for the usage of the technologies. It will be kind of next level of economy, different economy level, when they're gonna swap the data to the usage of the systems. And they will share the data. Yeah. Wanting that or not wanting that depends. Different models are, being, talked about, but definitely their data will be more expensive than they are paying for the solution. So it's kind of a new economy model which is coming up, and most probably it will happen in about 2 to 5 years. I would say so.
Yeah. Thank you. And we have a few more. Anton is sharing, and not a question, just a comment. Data should be collected by scientists. Farmers should have consulting services based on data collected. Today, almost all services are focused on control or forward contracts and insurance. So just sharing Anton's comment. And to sum up, Augustas, I would like to ask you, you mentioned quite few study cases. Which technology, which solution so far was the most profitable for ART21? Which one brought you the most profit until now?
Well, listen, I don't want to flatter myself. I will just say that all solutions which were done not to the farmers, they were the most profitable. The corporates, the governments, these are payable customers. We are still till now investing into different kind of technologies for the farming industry to scale up in the market and to have the market share. And talking about the farming industry, the monetization for the technology providers, it's kind of starting this year. So before it was long run to have the market to be known, and we known for sure, and to be there. So I think that from the next cap, next financing period from the Commission, all those money which were before, like 2007-13, we're going for the tractors. Now this money will come to companies like me, and I'm trying to foster, the ecosystem, so more and more technological companies would come to Lithuania, because it's not about the competition. It's about that as more companies we are together, we are stronger, and we are kind of the movement. So as more technologies will come up, as better it will be. And someone said before, just to wrap up, that Lithuania is a good place to create something true, because we're super small and we can validate the technology country-wise, not on the farm level, on the country level. We are 3 million people, 300 kilometers across the country. And once we pilot the technologies in Lithuania, we then can export them as super added value, a super high value, to the bigger countries where they don't have that luxury to test the tech on a country. Take the Poland, take the Spain, take the Germany. It's impossible, just purely. So, yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Augustas. The last question, let's do it. Victoria is asking, I think it's when you talked about the hemp study case, does the portable laboratory identify plant diseases, pests, weed species?
So you asked 3 questions in one. Yes, no, maybe. Yes, we are working now heavily on, as I said, cannabinoids, and to identify nutritional composition of micro and macro elements. Talking about the diseases in lenticle phase, we've done that with other crops, but by flying, and mostly they are, primary agriculture like the wheat, rapeseed, barley. We haven't done on the hams talking about the diseases. Technologically wise, I think it's doable because we already achieved that in other use cases. But just, we are still lacking some hands, and it depends on the market demand. We are going there who is paying the money.
Great. Thank you, Victoria, for your question. And Augustus, thank you for your presentation. Let's continue with our discussion and let's all connect into it. I know there are, let's wait for others to connect to the discussion. And we have one new person here, Mikhail Semeshin, who didn't do a presentation, but he's going to join us in the discussion. So, hi, Mikhail Semenishin. I'm maintenance department manager at Agrodronas, and the company specializes in drone technologies. So, hi, Mikhail, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Hello, Lucas.
Yeah, so before we begin and everyone joins in the chat and for the discussion, could you shortly tell us what do you do? I already saw your message in the chat, and I think it should be interesting for you also to listen to what Augusta said about the drones and the technologies. As I understand, Agrodronas is doing something similar. Can you tell us more about it?
Yes, we're doing something very similar. So Augustus's presentation was very on point and very accurate. So thank you, Augustus, for all your work in this field. But we dabble in a little bit different field. We don't only provide scanning services. Our drones can also provide spraying, seeding, and even dropping, like, solid fertilizer granules on the field. Our drones have all artificial AI intelligence, and the ground robots are also ran by the artificial intelligence. If you don't mind, I would like to run a short 2-minute video about them.
Okay, let's do it. Could you please share your screen? Let's see the video and then
yes,
continue.
1 second.
Yeah.
Can you see it?
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, perfect.
Let's try it out. Could you make it full screen? And I think I cannot hear the sound, but we can. Okay, but let's read the captions. Okay, the part with the washing the drone with a high pressure water stream was quite impressive. I didn't know you can do that. So thank you, Mikhail, for your presentation. So as I understand, it's already a working product, already for sale. What you do?
Yes, it's a working product. It's not our own. It's not Lithuania. It's not a Lithuanian product. We import it, but we are the main Baltic distributor for like 500-kilometer radius.
Great. Okay, so everyone, if you can, please join the discussion. Please turn on your camera and mic. Let's talk shortly. Let's have 20-minute roundup of that's what we do in Lithuania Goes AI. We choose the topic, for example, AI plus education, AI plus creative industries, and today's AI plus Agro-tech. And I just want to ask you and to help me round up the situation here in Lithuania. What's the ecosystem like? What are the challenges here for you? So the main question is maybe for our businessmen here, Michael and Augustas. So what are the big challenges for you working in Lithuania? What would be different if you were doing the same thing, let's say, in some other country, Latvia, Estonia, Poland, or Israel? Is there anything specific about Lithuanian Agrotech or the ecosystem here, or is it the same as everywhere else in the world?
By my opinion, I think it's like everywhere else in the world that the farmers just want to see the technology firsthand and not like, you know, in a video or presentation or something like that. So they want to see the actual potential of it before they even consider using it.
Great. Augustus, what do you think? Is there anything specific we have here in Lithuania?
If you compare with the Latvia or Estonia, no. If you compare with the Central West, yes. And it's a mental things, cultural things, because for example, in Netherlands, and we are working a lot with them and doing the business together. For example, now farmers believe that if they are buying and investing their own cash into the digital technologies and saving some on a fungicides, fertilizers, pesticides, or having at least a little bit yield, and that bigger yield or less expenditures compensates the price of digital technology, it means that they gave away something to be sustainable for the environment. So they are not chasing the profit of the digitalization, they're giving their own thing to become environmental friendly. Sorry, but it's true. If you will say that, listen, I mean, if you will say that for the Lithuanian farmer that buy this tech, you will not make more money. Nothing will change, but you will save some, you know, our Mother Earth lifetime. Will not go work, simply. But it's cultural thing, and you know, Netherlands and Dutch, they are in the precision farming from the very beginning, which counts to 1981. We started to use this term 2005. So, okay, so we are delaying 25 years. Yes, we will come up faster, but it's still not there. So I think the cultural things are there and you cannot change it. You can foster that. So we are working on it.
Yeah, so as you said, we are a little bit late. Michael and Thomas, what do you think, how far away we are, let's say, from the Dutch and the Netherlands, who are more or less are for the frontiers of these technologies of Agrotech and the food industry? So, and what should be done so that we would catch up faster? What would be your take?
Well, so probably, yeah, Augustus already mentioned some of the difference. Of course, we have to think that Dutch wages have to invest in the technology all the time to be sustainable. I mean, you have quite different competitiveness there and also strong limitations of amount of land we have, and also, I mean, long tradition of working in these limited conditions. So that's one of the things. And of course, we always had better funding from the government to do these things. I think in Lithuania, it's a mix. So some things Augustus or Michael are already doing. We are showing that these things can work and they can give some improvements. Another thing, I mean, you have to educate people and to show that these things work. But as it was mentioned, it's not trivial. I mean, it's not easy to build solution if you need expensive data. And that's true. I mean, all AI is based on the data. And of course, when you talk about agriculture or medicine, it's not always trivial to collect the data. But, and I think that actually some additional initiatives from the government would help farmers to move towards these things. But when people just have to start thinking about it from educational point. So actually, you have to introduce it into study programs. You have to talk about it more and to show the benefits. And then we can, I think we can, maybe not fast, but catch up with the Netherlands, because some things are happening faster in, let's say, smaller countries.
Yes. So, Michael, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I completely agree with Thomas and Augustus about what they mentioned about this topic. I think that we're behind like from 5 to 10 years from the Western and Central European countries. Even Ukraine has surpassed us in the agricultural sector and technology-wise. But I think that if the right funding is provided into the right directions, we can catch up really quickly. It wouldn't take us those 5 or 10 years. We can do it in 1 or 2. We just need to show initiative ourselves.
Okay, Augustus, what would you say? Is the financing is the problem here in Lithuania?
Financing is always the problem.
Yeah, that's the thing, I guess.
I think that this question, I will elaborate from my perspective, but also Christina's opinion would be interesting. I think she is driving to another city, but she is here with us. So once you will ask, she will respond. But my perspective is, as I said, we are different from the United States of America, and the subsidizing scheme is in all the countries that farmers get paid to be the farmers. And once we want to shift them in one direction or another, we pay them by different kind of funding programs. So if the government is saying that now you have to be environmental friendly and digitalize, give the money. I mean, before it worked, why it shouldn't work now? But we are lagging with the new financing schemes, and the cap itself, it's a little bit delaying. So yeah, we will lose like a year or so. Once it will come, I can guarantee that the boost up will go exponentially. It always happened like this. And we don't need to discuss about the fact that is it good or bad that we finance the farmers to do the farming. It's already that for the past 30 years. So since we are okay with that system, and if we want to shift them to one direction or another, we need to do that. Well, I mean the policymakers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very, very down to earth. Okay, Christina, I don't know if you can hear me. If you can hear me, oh, thanks.
Yes.
Thanks.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So what's your take? What do you think should be done so that we could move on to the same side where the Netherlands and the Dutch are? How could we catch up with them?
Okay, well, first of all, I will jump in a little bit from the farmer's side. We've heard a lot of that, those implementations of the technology needs to be funded, of course, but we have to remember another thing. Well, CAP is the biggest part that the whole European Union is providing for the agri-food sector, right? So every farmer in every member state is being subsidized. So it's normal practice. But we have to remember that Lithuania is still Lithuanian farmers is still being subsidized below average. So only right now, like this is a hot news, it has been approved that we're gonna be getting for the next period a little bit higher subsidized for the farmers. There was agreement reached, but still we're gonna be below average about 30%. So talking about that, if we are not getting already even the average of the subsidized, we cannot even talk that farmers gonna be investing their own money into the new upcoming technologies, which we still cannot show like the real value. And it was a very interesting discussion with the farmers that I had. Well, farmers overall, they're not against technology. Do not take that like as a stand that they don't understand or they don't want to implement. They do. The real thing is why we do not get those technology funding schemes so keenly from the government right away, because it is very hard right away to show the return of investment on the farm level. A little bit Augustas was talking about that. Like, for example, if you take manufacturing, it is very easy to show the value right away. You implement the technology and you can show, you invest €1, you get €3 back. With the farm, it does not work that way. And this is another problem. It works only for the long time of period. So if for this period, we're going to miss the opportunity, our national government is going to miss the opportunity to get the right schemes for the implementing, for example, digitalization or doing even the pilot farm. We have very big opportunities for those. And that means we're going to be staying behind. We then even not talking about Netherlands. We then going to be staying like behind everyone's back in the long-term period of time. So by no means the schemes for the implementing technologies, it is a must. You cannot say that farmers going to be investing by themselves. And on the other hand, look at the other sectors, manufacturing and etc. Well, they get subsidized. They get funds for the implementing technologies. So why not the agri-food? So
yes.
These are my insights.
Yeah, thank you very much, Christina. Very interesting insights. But we don't go to the politics too much. I think that was great to talk about, but let's not go in too deep to that. I want to ask our business and entrepreneurs, that is Augustas and Mikhail, what are the main challenges in your companies, in your business? Like, what is the biggest challenge at the moment? Is it, I don't know, finding new employees, or is it finding new markets for selling your products, or what's the single biggest challenge that you're now facing in your business?
Currently, we're facing the challenge of, educating the farmers about the technology, because it's very difficult to prove to a farmer who's been using a standard tractor-based sprayer that uses 400 liters per hectare, that he can spray the same hectare with like 5 to 7 liters, which is 100 times less.
Sounds unbelievable in a way, right?
Yeah, it's very difficult for them to break that thought barrier that it can be achieved.
Augustas, what would you say? Educating the farmers, reaching them, or what is the biggest now challenge in your business?
Well, I have a team who solves the challenges. I'm looking a little bit more on the still geopolitical and national level, because in my opinion, the main challenge is the adoption. And I don't want to repeat myself again, but I said my remarks before that the adoption will make the impact on all the digital technology providers and developers or distributors, whatever. So this is the key point. And I think that as more all the tech providers will unite, as faster it will be possible to do. But as well, I'm getting back to the same story, the regulations. It's not companies' challenge. I mean, it's ecosystem challenge in a way, because despite of that fact, everything goes smooth. And, we export more than 65 to 70% of all the revenue stream, what we do. So, of course, people always issue. I mean, even though I said that who comes to work to me, they don't leave, it's fine. But talking about the projects and new business development, we are always seeking and always hiring. And to find the good people, it's complicated. And then we are coming back to the fact about the education, because the youth, the IT people, the engineers and whatever, they still think that, agriculture is when you are driving the 30 years old tractor and what kind of innovation is supposed to be there. It's not like that. So we are putting a lot of efforts and money to educate that it's super innovative and really interesting, because yes, you're doing the software, but you can see how physically it changes the actual things, the crop, the animals, the forests, the fish. So the education and the marketing, the proper marketing or the positioning and the branding of the agri industry itself is a challenge, which is really expensive to do. And you cannot calculate the ROI because you are giving all the efforts. As I said, hundreds of events per year. It's going well, but it costs a lot in a way.
Yeah. So as I understand it, would help you if the regulators would make decisions faster, right? If the regulation comes through faster.
Yes, I think so. And once again, the education is everything, but not only for the farmers, but for those who are the technology developers. They need to find a sexy, some kind of thing in this industry. And it's going well. I mean, yes, it's booming up and people want to do something in the agri-food industry, but we expect more and we are trying to put all the efforts. I mean, that's why I'm also talking here today.
Yeah, I think you already presented in a very attractive way for IT specialists that usually if they work in fintech, for example, what they can see is maybe growing numbers, but definitely not growing animals or growing plants that they can see outside of their window, which is something I haven't thought about. Okay, and so to round up our discussion, let's not take too much time. Is there any potential that you see in Lithuania that's usually or in a way untapped? How big is the potential here in Lithuania? What's the strongest points that we have that we could use better here in Lithuania? What do you think? Thomas, what would be your take?
Well, so first of all, I would like to repeat what Augustas said, that we have a lot of smart people, but we have to show that actually agriculture and Agritech is very interesting, because it's not easy to make this thing sexy enough for people to start studying agriculture, AT with taste of agriculture or something like that. And if we are able to attract people, we can develop a lot of very interesting and good things. So that's one of the things. Another thing I think is that actually our agriculture sector is quite dynamic. It's still growing. I mean, in older countries in Western Europe, it's very stable. So if people can change faster, they can adopt to new technologies faster. And we have funding, for digitalization of manufacturing. It could be the same for agriculture. We can have the very similar programs. So, and yeah, well, actually, we have some quite interesting industries. So, for example, we have people like Idavan, who are big players and doing interesting things. So we have, a lot of livestock industry, other type of industry where we can also do some things, not just, crop growing.
Yeah.
So we can do all these things. And
yeah, so I can feel you more or less. All of you are agreeing on most of the points. Michael, what do you think? What is the potential here that could be, unleashed in a better way? Is there any?
Well, as you probably know, Lithuania is a small country, and because of that, we have a unique opportunity to test the technologies on a country level, as Augustas mentioned before. So we were one of the countries with the fastest internet in the world for a few years now. So I think we would be the perfect testing ground for IoT, Internet of Things. We could test all of those technologies and provide them to the world. We could be the leading country that creates them, tests them, and, well, distributes.
Yes. And Christina, if you can hear me, yes. What would you say is the potential of Lithuania? How big is it and how much of it is still untapped?
Well, for sure, I would say we have a huge potential and we really need to look into Agri-tech. And as all colleagues agreed, since we are a small country, we have very good possibility to test different technologies. But I say everything starts from the vision, and I have this vision, this dream to digitalize the whole food value chain. If you remember my scheme that I showed before, how complex is the whole food value chain. But Lithuania has a huge potential possibility to be the first and to do it from the beginning, from the farm till the end user, logistics and etc., and show it the real value. What happens after you digitalize the food value chain? So I think we have a good possibility in this.
Great. Thanks, Christina. And Augusta, since you kind of answered this question in your previous answers, so what in general, let's round it up. And then what would you say for anyone who is interested in Agrotech and maybe thinks about moving in this field, in this topic? And I can hear quite some stories from people who are into Agrotech already, but they come from other fields of, let's say, IT or fintech and so on. Mikhail himself here, he came from aero scene, as I understand, right? Mikhail,
I was in aviation engineering and worked for a couple of years in the same field.
Yeah. So Augustus, what would be your cheering up for those who are interested in working in Agrotech and maybe things and getting involved in this topic? What would you say to them?
Yeah, just before that, to wrap up, all my colleagues who were talking today, once again, numbers. Lithuania per capita, it's #1 country in Europe by exporting raw material. I mean crops, grains, which is the worst thing you can do. It's the lowest added value what you can achieve. So by swapping the low added value export to the high value digital technologies that could shift shift the industry itself. And what it's still not booked in Europe is that many countries, they're having some kind of brand of their own. I don't know, in Netherlands you can smoke weed, Estonia is digital government, whatever. There is no digital agri-tech country in a way. So it's empty field, and it's all the possibilities to take it to ourselves, they are there. So this is the idea where I'm going to, and I hope that it will be achieved in a while. Now, talking about why to go to the agri-tech industry, well, I think all the pros and cons were named today. But yes, we need all the people who are not from the agri. The agri we have. We need cross-competence teams. We need cross-discipline scientists, and with them we can make magic happen. And we really can. And as you said, Lucas, like by quoting me, is that yes, in the agri you see physical animals, plants, diseases, things what you cannot do when you're just playing with the numbers. And I think for the people it's fun, even though my team now is flying the planes. Cool. I mean, it's not just in the office, and programming the Excel charts. So it's close to the life, but on super high-tech level. And this is the main advantage and motivation. Plus, it's very profitable if you are good at it.
That's also a great plus. So thank you very much, Augustus. A great roundup and very positive. So, and thank you everyone, Christina, Thomas, and Michael, for joining us today, for your presentations and for letting us know what happens here in Lithuania and AI. Thank you everyone for sharing your questions in the chat. Amazing. Agrotech. I now know more than I knew. I think I knew so little about Agrotech here in Lithuania. Now I can tell I know quite some. And before everyone goes to have their lunch, I just want to tell you that we have our 5th event of Lithuania Goes AI on the 28th of this month, and the topic is going to be education. That kind of rounds up everything that we said. A lot of our speakers told me and talked about the importance of education. So we're going to talk about that next week on Tuesday, and it's going to start a little bit later than usually at 3 p.m. So see you then. And once again, thank you everyone. Thank you everyone. Once again, presenters, thank you. And the chat is also saying thank you. So good luck in Agrotech. Hopefully we are not going to be a potato country only in the next few years.
Cheers.
Thank you
So much.
Have a nice day.
Bye.